Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're doing a bit of time travel.
Just a bit.
We're looking squarely at the year 2026. And I know, in normal human years, that is.
Yeah.
It's just around the corner.
It is. But in AI years,
Might as well be a decade away.
it really feels that way. The pace of change has just completely warped our sense of time. A week feels like a month feels like a year. It's wild.
It is. And before we get into the specific predictions,
Mhm.
and we have some massive ones today, I mean, from Chinese tech dominance to the literal death of the website, we have to address the context.
Right.
There's this constant background noise right now. You hear it, I hear it. Is it a bubble? Is the AI hype finally about to crash?
It is the trillion-dollar question. And it feels almost, I don't know, reckless to make predictions when the sentiment is so volatile. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
Our source material for today has been tracking this industry with a level of precision that just ignores the noise. They're not looking at stock prices. They're looking at the engineering reality.
And what's the message?
The message for 2026 is crystal clear. The bubble isn't popping. It's hardening into concrete.
And we should say, their track record, it kind of gives them the right to be that confident.
Oh, for sure.
We looked back at what they predicted for 2025, and it's honestly a little unnerving how accurate they were.
It really validates the whole methodology. I mean, just look at generative virtual playgrounds.
Right.
Back in 2024, that sounded like pure sci-fi. They predicted we'd see models that could build interactive worlds on the fly. And then, boom, right on schedule for 2025.
We got Genie 3 from Google DeepMind and Marble from World Labs.
Exactly. Suddenly, we weren't just generating static images. We were generating playable environments. You could literally walk through a dream the AI built for you.
It's incredible.
And they also called the shift to reasoning models, systems that don't just spit out text, but actually sort of think through a problem. Pause and reflect before answering.
That's the new standard paradigm now.
It is. And maybe most significantly, they predicted the militarization of these tools.
That was the big shift with OpenAI and Anduril, right?
Correct. The pivot to national security. OpenAI partnering with Anduril to use AI for downing drones. That was a prediction with serious geopolitical weight, and it happened almost exactly as they forecasted.
So, okay, they've earned their stripes. We're not just reading tea leaves here.
Not at all.
Our mission today is to unpack their dossier for the next 12 months. We're going to look at 4 massive shifts that are going to define 2026.
The infrastructure shifting east, the economy shifting to agents, science going on autopilot.
And the legal war that's breaking out at home.
It's a landscape that looks very, very different from what we're used to.
So let's start with the infrastructure. Because this first prediction, I have to say, it really caught me off guard.
It's a big one.
We're so used to the narrative that Silicon Valley is the king of the hill. We invent it, the rest of the world copies it. But the source suggests that in 2026,
The script is flippin'.
the apps and products we use every day in the West, they're increasingly going to be running on Chinese engines.
This is what the industry is calling the DeepSeek moment. And to really understand 2026, you have to understand what happened back in January of 2025.
This was the release of that model called
R1.
Right, R1 by DeepSeek.
Exactly. It was a thriller moment for the industry. You had this relatively small Chinese startup operating with like a fraction of the budget and compute of a Google or a Microsoft.
Okay.
And yet they dropped a model that didn't just compete with the American giants. It matched them.
It basically broke that assumption that you need the GDP of a small country to build state-of-the-art AI.
Precisely. But the performance wasn't even the biggest shock. The shock was that they gave it away.
What do you mean?
They released it as open weights.
Open weights. Okay, let's make sure everyone's on the same page with that term because it is crucial for this whole prediction.
It's everything.
So how is open weights different from what, say, OpenAI or Anthropic does?
Okay, think of it like a restaurant recipe. Companies like OpenAI run a closed kitchen. You can order the meal. You can use ChatGPT, but you have no idea what the recipe is. And you certainly can't cook it in your own house. You have to pay them every single time you want to eat.
Got it. So I'm renting the intelligence.
Right.
I'm a customer, not an owner.
Right. Open weights is like DeepSeek publishing the recipe and giving you the starter dough. You can download the brain of the model.
Onto my own machine.
Your own laptop, your own server. You own it. And because you own it, you can modify it.
And this is where those technical terms in the source, distillation and pruning, this is where they come in.
This is the key. It's why startups love these models.
Okay, so break those down. What's distillation?
Imagine you have a brilliant professor who knows everything about everything. Physics, history, you name it. That's the massive AI model.
Okay.
But you want to build a tutor just for fifth grade math. You don't need the whole professor to come to your house. That's expensive and slow.
Right. I do not need a PhD in history to teach multiplication.
Exactly. So distillation is having that big professor teach a smaller, younger student model only the math part.
Ah,
The student learns to mimic the professor's answers, but it takes up a fraction of the space. You distill the intelligence down to what you actually need.
okay, that makes sense. You get a model that's smart but also tiny and cheap. So what about pruning?
Pruning is even more direct. Imagine a brain with billions of connections. If you want that brain to only focus on, say, coding Python, well, half of those connections, the ones for recognizing cats or writing poetry, they're just useless weight. Pruning is literally cutting those connections out.
You're just trimming the fat.
You're optimizing the engine. And because Chinese models like R1 are open, American developers can actually do this. They can't do it with GPT-4 because they can't touch the engine.
Which creates this huge irony. You have American innovation, the cool new apps, the startups in San Francisco, all running on infrastructure built in China.
Because it's the only infrastructure they can actually tinker with. And the data backs this up. The sources point to reports from, CNBC, Bloomberg. They're showing a massive spike in U.S. startups adopting these models.
That's just the easy option.
It is. Why pay OpenAI a fortune for API fees when you can download a Chinese model that's 95% as good for free?
So who else is doing this besides DeepSeek? Is it just one company?
No, and that's the scary part for U.S. dominance. The real giant in the room is Alibaba.
Alibaba.
Their model line is called Quinn.
Quinn. Yeah, I've seen that name popping up on leaderboards.
It's everywhere. Specifically, the Qwen 2.5 1.5B Instruct version, it has something like 8.85 million downloads.
Wow.
That is a staggering number for a developer tool. And they're releasing specialized versions for math, for vision, for coding. It's becoming the default.
So Silicon Valley has to be reacting to this. I mean, they can't just let the entire ecosystem drift across the Pacific.
They are, but they're playing catch-up. The pressure forced their hand. OpenAI finally released an open model in August, and the Allen Institute released Olmo 3.
But it's a bit late.
Well, the prediction for 2026 is that this gap effectively vanishes.
You mean the time gap?
Right. It used to be that China was 6 months behind the U.S., then 3 months. The source predicts that in 2026, the gap between a Chinese release and a Western one will be measured in weeks.
It really highlights the power of open source. Governments can put up tariffs, they can ban chip exports, but code.
Code is like water. It finds the cracks.
It flows right through the walls.
And that flow is completely reshaping the global tech stack.
Okay, so that's the engine room, that's the infrastructure. I want to pivot now to how this actually changes the user experience. Because the second big prediction for 2026 is about something called agentic commerce.
This is the one that hits your wallet.
Right. And the headline here seems to be, stop searching, start assigning.
That is a great way to put it. For the last 20 years, the internet has been a search engine economy. Just think about your process. You want a new coffee maker, what do?
I Google best coffee maker 2026. I get 10 links. I open 5 tabs. I read a blog that was probably written by AI anyway.
Right.
Then I go to Amazon to check prices. I go to another site to check shipping. The whole thing takes 20 minutes.
In 2026, that loop just collapses. You have an agent, a persistent non-human assistant on your phone or your desktop.
Sure.
And you just say, I need a coffee maker under $200 that fits a small counter and does cold brew.
And the agent doesn't just give me links.
No. The agent goes out, reads the reviews, checks the dimensions against your counter space because it knows that, finds the best price, and here's the kicker. It executes the transaction. It buys the machine.
It effectively cuts the human completely out of the shopping process. I'm just the manager who approves the budget.
You're the CEO of your own consumption, and the scale of this is hard to overstate. Salesforce data from the last holiday season showed AI already influenced about $263 billion in sales.
That's already 21% of the market.
It is. But McKinsey is forecasting that by 2030, this agentic commerce will be a $3 to $5 trillion economy.
Trillion. That's a completely new economy. But this raises a huge question for me about the internet ecosystem. If I'm not clicking links and I'm not visiting websites, what happens to the websites?
That is the dark side of this prediction. The website as a destination starts to die.
How so?
Well, if the bot scrapes the data and handles the purchase, why would you ever visit HomeDepot.com? Traffic from search engines and social media to retail sites is predicted to plummet.
That sounds like an extinction-level event for ad-supported businesses. If no human eyes see the banner ads, the business model just breaks.
It absolutely does. The entire architecture of the web clicks, impressions, views, it's all built for human eyes. If bots are doing the buying, that whole architecture collapses.
And the big players, they must see this coming.
Oh, they are rushing to control the new interface. Google is integrating this into Gemini with their shopping graph to keep you in their ecosystem. OpenAI is partnering with Walmart, Target, and Etsy to make sure their bot can spend your money directly.
It's a war for the interface of everything. If you control the agent, you control the spending.
Exactly. And for the consumer, it sounds convenient. Hey, buy me a gift for Dave. Done.
But there's a huge trust gap there. I mean, I barely trust myself to pick out the right refrigerator. Do I trust a bot that might be hallucinating specs?
Or a bot that's incentivized to push a certain brand? That's where it gets messy. But history shows convenience usually wins.
Always. If it saves me 30 minutes, I'll risk getting the wrong coffee maker.
That's the bet they are making.
Let's move from the shopping mall to the laboratory. Because if agentic commerce is about AI doing our chores, this next trend is about AI doing our thinking.
Right.
The source predicts that in 2026, an LLM is going to make a significant scientific discovery.
This is one of the most hopeful parts of the report, I think, but we need to be nuanced here. The source is very careful to say that LLMs, large language models, they don't think in the way we do.
Right.
They aren't sitting in a room having an epiphany about physics.
No, they're prediction engines. They just predict the next word in a sentence.
Yeah.
So how does a next word predictor invent a new material or cure a disease? That feels like a leap.
It happens by pairing the LLM with something else. They call it the System 2 approach. You take the creativity of the LLM, its ability to hallucinate new ideas, and you pair it with a rigorous verifier.
A verifier.
Think of it like a wild, creative brainstorming partner paired with a strict, logical editor. The breakthrough example they give is Google DeepMind's AlphaVolve, which launched in May.
How'd that work?
So they use the Gemini model to propose new algorithms for managing energy in data centers. Gemini would just spit out code, some of it junk, some of it brilliant,
Okay.
and then they used an evolutionary algorithm to test that code.
Evolutionary algorithm. That sounds intense. Break that down.
It's basically survival of the fittest for math. The system tests the code Gemini wrote. If it fails or is inefficient, it's deleted. It goes extinct. If it works, it's kept and bred with other good code to make it even better. Then, that improved result is fed back into Gemini to start the loop all over again.
So it's a feedback loop. The AI proposes, the algorithm tests and refines, and the AI learns from the result. It's grading its own homework and getting smarter every time.
Exactly. And it worked. AlphaVolve found ways to manage energy in Google's TPU chips that human engineers had not thought of.
It optimized the hardware in ways that were counterintuitive to human logic.
That's the key, right? Counterintuitive. Humans have biases. We solve problems in ways that make sense to us. The AI doesn't care about making sense. It only cares about the math.
And this approach is spreading.
Like wildfire. You had an engineer named Asankaya Sharma release OpenEvolve right after an open source version. Sakana AI in Japan launched SyncEvolve. We're seeing a boom in these automated scientists.
The University of Colorado Denver is mentioned here too. They're trying to tweak reasoning models to specifically mimic creative thought.
Yes, they want the models to look for the unconventional solution.
Right.
Not the most statistically probable answer, which is what LLMs usually give, but the weird answer that might actually be a breakthrough.
So 2026 could be the year we see a headline. AI discovers new battery material.
Or AI solves protein folding structure. That is the prediction. And it changes science from a human speed endeavor to a machine speed endeavor.
Which is incredibly exciting. It feels like we're on the verge of a golden age.
Right?
And you knew there was a but coming.
There's always a but.
We cannot talk about 2026 without talking about the mess.
The
Regulatory, legal, and political battlefield. Because while the tech is accelerating, the laws are, well, they're fighting each other.
Fighting is putting it mildly. The source describes a massive three-way tug of war. And it all stems from the divergence between state laws and federal ambitions.
And this really kicked off with that executive order in late 2025.
Yes. December 11th, 2025, President Trump signed an executive order designed to basically neutralize state-level AI laws.
The logic being, We need to beat China, so stop slowing us down with safety rules.
Exactly. The argument is that if every state, California, New York, Texas, has different AI safety laws, it creates a patchwork that just stifles innovation.
You can't build a car if the rules of the road change every time you cross a state line.
That's the idea. So the White House wants to wipe the slate clean. Deregulation for the sake of speed.
But the states aren't just going to say, okay, fine.
Not at all, especially California. They had passed a stringent law requiring safety tests for large models before they're released. They were almost certainly going to sue.
Arguing that the president can't just invalidate state laws.
Right. It's shaping up to be a real constitutional crisis. And there's money involved, as always. Leverage.
How so?
The federal government funds a lot of state programs. The source suggests we might see a situation where states are pressured to cave on AI laws just to keep their highway funding or healthcare grants flowing.
And meanwhile, big tech is just pouring money into this fire.
Super PACs, OpenAI, Meta, all of them are spending heavily to influence this legislation. They want clarity, but they also want favorable terms.
So that's the political layer. But there's another layer that I think is even scarier for the companies, the liability layer.
Oh, yeah.
We are moving past copyright lawsuits.
We are. 2024 and 2025 were all about you stole my book to train your model. 2026 is about your model killed my son.
That is a heavy shift.
It's a tragic one. The source highlights a landmark trial set for November 2026. It involves the family of a teen who committed suicide, allegedly encouraged by a chatbot. They're taking OpenAI to court.
And the core question there is the company responsible for what the bot says?
Well, if I build a toaster and it explodes, I'm liable. But I build a chatbot and it talks someone into a tragedy. Section 230 of the Internet Law says platforms aren't liable for user content.
But is AI output user content, or is it the company's own creation?
That's the question. And if the courts decide that OpenAI is liable for every hallucination, every piece of bad advice,
It changes everything.
the insurance premiums alone would be astronomical. The move fast and break things era would come to a screeching halt.
So let's try to pull this picture together for the listener. Because 2026 really feels like a massive contradiction.
It is a dichotomy,
Yeah.
a split screen.
Yeah. On the left side of the screen, you have the technology. It's becoming open. It's becoming global, running on these Chinese open source models that anyone can download.
It's becoming agentic, buying our groceries, running our science experiments. The capability is just skyrocketing.
But then on the right side of the screen, the human systems are just fracturing. You have the White House fighting the states. You have companies fighting liability lawsuits.
A battle over who even controls the off switch.
We're handing over more agency to these machines, trusting them to be our shoppers, our scientists, at the exact moment we are fighting the hardest over who is responsible for them.
That's the crux of it. We're building the engine faster than we're building the steering wheel.
It brings me to a final thought. We talked about agentic commerce, giving the AI your credit card.
Right.
And we talked about deregulation. So if we live in a world where we hand our wallets to these agentic shoppers, and those shoppers are built on deregulated open source models, when the bot buys the wrong thing, or buys something illegal, or just drains the account, who takes the fall?
Is it the user who gave the command? Is it the company that built the model?
Or is the open source developer in China who wrote the weights? I don't think we have an answer for that yet.
We definitely don't.
But I have a feeling 2026 is going to force us to find one. Probably the hard way.
I think you're right.
That is the landscape for the year ahead. A year of open weights, invisible shoppers, and courtroom battles. We'll leave you with that to chew on. Stay curious, watch out for those deep-seek moments, and we'll catch you in the next deep dive.